Today is another chance to get better. Good morning, YouTube. What's up, guys? Today I'm back for another first run impressions video. Today I have a really exciting shoe from a company that I've been reviewing a lot lately, I'll admit, but I think that you're gonna wanna see this one. What shoe is it? Well, it's the New Balance Fuelcell TC. As you know, New Balance has been really doing a great job with all the shoes they've been putting out. I love the Rebel, I love the 1080 V10, I really like the Propel, and I think I'm gonna really like the TC. Now, I have, full disclaimer, ran in this shoe on the treadmill because I couldn't wait to get it on my foot, but I haven't taken it out on the road yet, so we're gonna really test it out. It's hard to tell on the treadmill how good or bad a shoe really is because it's just not the same as running outdoors. New Balance is marketing the shoe as a racer that you can also train in. And yes, it has a carbon fiber plate inside. So I'm assuming that it's gonna be kind of like a Nike Zoom Fly rather than a Nike Vaporfly Next Percent. But I guess we'll really have to see when I start running outside how it feels, but that's my take on it. In hand, it does feel a little heavy, like more daily trainer heavy than racing flat heavy. So let's get these laced up and let's go out on the run, and then I'll tell you all about the New Balance Fuelcell TC. In 7:46 a mile. These shoes were the closest to Vaporflies that I felt while running. I'm definitely being propelled forward, but that cushioning is so soft, kind of like the Vaporfly. Alright, so I'm back from my run and it's time that we talk all about the New Balance Fuelcell TC. So if you've been following the running shoe game for the last year or two, you know that carbon fiber plated shoes are kind of all the rage right now. And Nike sort of pioneered this concept with the 4%, this is the OG, and the Vaporfly Next Percent. Other brands have come out with carbon fiber plated shoes, but none of them have really kind of compared to that feeling you get when you step foot in a Vaporfly, that trampoline, cushioned, bouncy feeling. Like there's just really no other shoe on the market that sort of gives you that feeling until now. If you're a person who just hasn't had much luck in the Vaporfly series, then you might want to check out the Fuelcell TC, and we're going to get into why right now. For starters, the combination of the Fuelcell foam and that carbon fiber plate in the middle is so soft, but also quite propulsive. It's interesting. The TC, the Rebel, and the Propel all use that Fuelcell foam, but I have to say, in the TC, it feels a lot softer. It's just got like more of a squish to it. and especially in the heel area. And New Balance didn't say that they use a different composition of Fuelcell foam, but I have to wonder if it's slightly different because the feeling is just so plush and so bouncy in this TC that it just feels, it's gotta be different. When I first put the TC on my foot, I did feel that same sensation that I got when I first stepped foot in that OG Vaporfly 4%. It's like you're walking on trampolines, like it's kind of like you need to get your sea legs a little bit. When you first put it on and you're walking around, it does feel a bit awkward, but when you start running, that sensation kind of goes away and you just get into a rhythm and it feels great underfoot. There's not much of a rocker technology in the TC, but I did still feel that propulsion forward from the plate mixed with the foam, so it's really not something to be too terribly concerned about. One thing I did really like about the TC is that the platform is a little bit wider, so it feels a little more stable underfoot. My foot doesn't feel like it's moving around and trying to force itself to stay on the platform. So that's a huge plus for me, and I think that it'll be a huge benefit for others as well. Like I said earlier, the heel of this shoe is incredibly cushioned. I'll try to see that. Yeah, that's awesome. As is the forefoot, but I definitely did notice as I kept running after about a mile or so that the forefoot does feel a little bit firmer than that heel does, and it's not a bad thing. It's not like there's a rock under your foot or that I was desiring more. It's just something that I noticed that after a little bit of time, maybe the foam in the forefoot does compress a bit and it feels a little bit firmer than when you first started. But again, nothing too crazy, just something that I did want to note. Just by looking at this shoe, I've noticed that the foam does crease when you run in it, and kind of like the 4% and the next percent, I don't think it's a huge problem. I don't think it means that the durability is lacking. It just might be a characteristic of the foam, especially when there's more of it. I definitely am interested to see how many miles this shoe ends up being good for. New Balance didn't really tell me, but I think that this will be a fairly durable shoe that can last you some time. Oh, and this has nothing to do with performance or anything like that, but the foam has this like really cool iridescent like purple look to it. I'll show you a clip right here because it's like impossible to see, but it's just a really nice touch, and I love the look of this shoe. It is so nice. If we move on to the upper of this shoe, it's made with a nice breathable, and let me tell you, it's breathable because my toes were a little bit cold when I started out, but as I kept running, it felt fine. But it's a breathable synthetic mesh. It also has some interesting features like this New Balance printed dot logo. I'm not sure if that's for aesthetics or for more structure in the upper, but I'll say that it looks good while also giving the upper a little bit of extra rigidity. The collar of this shoe and the lacing system is suede, which is pretty fancy. And it feels fine and it's soft. I mean, I don't know why they made it suede. It's nice. It's not necessary though. I had no problems with the laces. They're flat, they're pretty rigid, not too stretchy, and they stayed tied just fine. One thing I really did like about the TC is this sturdy heel counter. See that? It's not going anywhere. And it also has this like flare that you can like call a pull tab. We'll take it. But I really like this sturdy heel counter because I've noticed in a lot of carbon fiber plated shoes that the heel counters are either not there or they're barely there. This gave me a little more stability that other carbon plated shoes lack. I was able to get a good lockdown in this shoe, but I have to say I really don't love the tongue. It's a little too thin, and it's not attached on either side, which is a recipe for disaster. I can already see how this is gonna start falling to the side or slipping into the shoe, and I hate that. That was a huge problem for me in the original Clifton 1, and I just don't like those tongues that are super thin. It's just not my favorite thing, so I'm hoping that it's fine. It was fine on my first run, but we're gonna have to see over time. That being said, I felt secure in the TC. Going around sharp turns was a little bit iffy, but nothing too terrible, and I felt a lot more confident in these than I do in the 4% and next percent going around the same turns. If you turn the shoe over, you'll see that New Balance has some rubber in the forefoot that dips into the midfoot. Then there's some exposed Fuelcell foam there in the midfoot with two little patches of rubber in the heel that are kind of dyed the same color as the foam. And that looks a lot similar to the next percent that also has those dyed rubber patches in the heel. Let's put them up together. Yeah. I didn't have any issues with traction. The rubber in the forefoot feels nice and tacky and like it'll last a long time. However, I do think that the rubber on the outsole contributes to weight, and that's what we're gonna dive into right now. New Balance told me that the TC weighs 10 ounces for a size that they didn't specify, but when I put my women's 10.5 on my new little scale that I got, it said that it was 9.18 ounces. Sure, if New Balance got rid of some of this rubber, if they got rid of this dirty heel counter and maybe some of this suede in the upper, it could be a lighter shoe and thus could more so compete with the Next Percent and the 4% and those other racing flat type of carbon fiber plated shoes. But I don't think this shoe is really meant to be just a racing flat. I think New Balance intends for the TC to be both part of your daily rotation, but also can race. Would I race a 5K in this shoe? Probably not. But would I race a marathon or even a half marathon in this shoe? Yeah, I definitely would. I raced a half marathon in my Next Percents in November and they were great and they felt good and I definitely felt propelled forward. But towards the end, around like 10 miles, my ankles were kind of yelling at me. I think the TC would likely provide that little extra stability that I need, which makes me think this could be like my sweet spot of a shoe. I've seen people comparing the shoe less to the Vaporfly 4% and Next Percent and more to the Zoomfly 3 and the Zoomfly series from Nike. I've never run in the Zoomfly, so I'm not too sure how those feel, but from what I've read, that shoe felt a little bottom heavy, and I saw some other reviews say that it felt like a boat on your foot. I don't know, I can't attest to that, but I can tell you that the TC does not feel like a boat on your foot. And a lot of you have been asking me where this lines up with the Fuelcell Rebel. So here's what I would do with all the Fuelcell shoes that I've tried. For those longer slow days where you don't care about pace and you're just kind of racking up the miles, I would wear the New Balance Fuelcell Propel. For those days where you want to run faster, shorter distance and you need to be lower to the ground, I would go with the Fuelcell Rebel. And for those days you want to do longer runs, but you want to care about your pace and maybe even race a half or race a marathon, then I would go with the Fuelcell TC. I know you might think that it's up there in weight, but it really doesn't feel like that on foot. And I personally welcome the extra stability elements, even if it means just a little more weight. The Fuelcell TC is currently sold out on New Balance's website, which is insane. I think that they released on Valentine's Day and they were sold out by 6 a.m. on the East Coast, which is nuts. But hopefully they restock soon and you guys can try to get your hands on them again. The price is $199.99 on New Balance's website, which I know is a bit steep, but you're getting a lot with this shoe. You're getting a carbon fiber plated shoe that can be used as both a daily trainer and a racer, that is potentially more durable, all for $50 less than the Nike Next Percent. And if you ask me, I absolutely think that's worth it. I might run the New York City half in it. I haven't decided yet, but it's looking like it might be a go. So guys, that kind of concludes my first run impressions of the New Balance Fuelcell TC. I will definitely be doing a full review of this shoe once I put more miles in it. If you enjoyed this video, please like it down below and subscribe. And when you're done with that, hit that notifications bell down below so you can be alerted every time I upload a new video. I have another video for you guys next week, but in the meantime, get out there, get on the grind, and don't forget to run like Heller. See you next time. Video. Oh, there's a runner outside. I can't tell what he's wearing on his feet.